How you doing, man?
This is Paul. How you doing, man?
Is it all right? I don't know what time it is, but it's morning here.
It's 5:30 where I am. I think Gabriel's also on your time zone. He's in
It's
Portugal.
8 a.m. for me.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Thank you.
Hello.
You're in France now, right?
I am indeed, yes. International chats are always the best, right?
Question: is it okay if I vape on video? Is that okay?
No, it's really. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. I've actually got a little beer here, so just a quick introduction, Paul.
Yeah, I'm Paul. I'm co-founder of a brand studio. I'm originally from the UK. I live in Hamburg in Germany now. Our studio is called Hyperfocus. We also, we do branding stuff. We also we run a YouTube channel as well. I'll talk about brand and interview people in the branding world.
I think I've tried to think of this a few times, but I'm trying to recall how I first stumbled across you, Hyperfocus, and the YouTube channel, and it might have just been on LinkedIn. I don't think LinkedIn does a particularly good job of presenting you things that you're interested in, but I don't know, it might have been on YouTube. But I started watching your YouTube videos, and I think it's I'm not aware of that many industry channels that I particularly watch. Maybe that was just kind of what was popping up on my YouTube at the time, but it's fair to say that the production value and the content that you guys have created has always been like 10 out of 10, and I think that easily just draws people in. But it's been interesting to watch like how it's grown gradually over the last sort of like probably it's about 4.5 years you've been doing it, right?
Yeah, something like that.
And I'm happy to see when you're starting to get more and more attention and actually more and more views, because I know that, for example, when you do start a channel, I've got a SoundCloud which became quite popular after 10 years. But I mean, even just doing these weekly calls, fortnightly calls, it takes a lot of commitment. And I've not done one of these for about 2 months now for a few reasons, stroke excuses. But to have that commitment where you actually do genuinely build something is that, I think that is the thing that is the difference between something happening and something not happening. And the fact that you guys have done a great job and continue to consistently do so, I think is quite rare. And obviously that's paying off quite well, right?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. Very kind intros for everybody so far. Also, for you as well, I mean, it's great that you're doing this as well and bringing the community together. So hats off to you as well, and also having a voice in the industry as well, super important. But the question was what? Is it actually like working for us, or?
Yeah, I think it seems to start. I think what's interesting is that this is a really cool topic, is being a content creator essentially in the design industry really is a marketing tactic. And I think you see people starting podcasts, but I feel like what you do and what Hyperfocus does is a lot more than that, right? But anyway, how's the journey been so far? What made you start? What was the get out of bed and do this kind of thing? And when did you start to see a return on that?
I mean, first of all, it was for me at the time, I think I was drawn much more to watching and consuming social media because of where I live. So I wasn't able to get a hold of the stuff that I traditionally would have watched back in the day. I mean, now it's a lot easier with VPNs, and I can watch all the stuff that I'm in touch with everything that's going on. But there was a point where my viewing habits were very different, and I found like solace in like a lot of content creators out there. And I was like, I started to get into like a lot of the photography stuff and tech stuff that was going on. And it wasn't that I was necessarily really into it. I mean, I liked it, but I found myself really drawn into their worlds and feeling like I knew them and all these kind of things. And I was like, why is that? And it's because I was spending a longer period of time with them, seeing them grow. And there was like almost two narratives. There was a narrative of them on their journey, and then them also reviewing tech or experimenting with equipment and stuff. We'd started the studio, and it's kind of that, like old idea of, you know, looking at a blank canvas or like an expressionist painting and kind of devaluing it by saying, well, I could do it, right? Anyone could do that. And I was like, well, actually, well, if I'm saying that, then why don't we give it a go? And it was fucking really hard, really hard. Because at the moment where you sit in front of a camera and you're just looking into this little black hole, and then you're expected to perform is really intimidating. And I remember the first video that we did, I was like a wooden block, and Jan, the co-founder, my co-founder, he was behind the camera saying, "Dude, move." And in your head, you're being incredibly expressive, but you're just like, "Hello, welcome to the channel." And he was like, "You have to learn to be like this different person." And it's like this over-exaggerated, over-expressed version of yourself. So if I do talking, it's a lot more compelling than me just sat here, right? And you see that in an edit. And this was something that you had to learn. It's like you find your voice and yourself through this new medium that you're kind of going on. So you grow, and you also learn a lot about yourself and how you show up and how other people see you, because you're able to self-filter, self-edit. But you're also saying things over and over and over again. And the things that are important to you start to repeat. And this actually is really great for when you're in client meetings or you're asked to be on stage, because you have this kind of default vocabulary that you've built up that you can just refer to. And it's from all this content that you've made. So it's a really safe fallback mechanism. And for that, that's allowed me to have a lot more confidence moving forward through the years. I mean, you know, all the people that we met on the channel, like Brian Collins, Lisa Smith, Kwame, the president of the DNAD, Max from Ragged Edge, all these people have been big advocates and really opened a lot of doors for us, because what we've always done, we've celebrated other people, not ourselves, because we just love like the industry at large. So being part of that has been amazing, and they've opened those doors for us. So us being on the stage at the DNAD was a direct coalition with, you know, us actually saying, okay, let's make ourselves really uncomfortable and create content. And people believed in it and said, oh, well, then you can obviously get on the stage and talk to people. But it's a direct response from doing those things.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of really good things that people can apply to help themselves with all of that. I think I'm also someone who had experienced essentially self-positioned anxiety on performing in front of people for work. And I think it's it can often be something that I know I've got other male friends who also kind of feel like that, but it's also widely known that, you know, public speaking and speaking in front of crowds is one of the most feared things on the planet. I think heights is number one, and I think public speaking is number two. But yeah, there's a really fun guy called Salman, who's one of the main presenters at essentially a theater in Dubai, and it's owned by a London lad who basically set up a proper like theater, and it's all like red and velvet and everything. Fantastic. They do improv nights, and they also do corporate training. But I ended up doing the improv sessions for I think 6 weeks, and it was really, really good. And I'm trying to get Salman on to talk about speaking and practicing, and so it's all about like resetting your brain to be comfortable at making mistakes. In particular, that's what improv is all about. But what you were talking about there about having that like toolkit of things that you can fall back on, or just you're safe there is really important. Because I know that when I remember I went silent in a presentation in Kuwait once, which was a pretty low stress presentation, but there was like the, you know, not the Emirati, there was the Kuwaiti guy in the dish dash, and there was the marketing manager, and there was just a bunch of other Kuwaiti ladies sitting there just staring at their mobile phones who really didn't care. And we worked so hard to make it perfect, but I just went silent when I started talking, and then my partner had to take over, so I kind of like messed it up. But then I knew that these things would play in my head and screw up, but by practicing and doing things like the improv training and whatnot, it's just like anything. You've got to practice it and you've got to get good at it. And I think I remember watching the D&AD thing that you guys did, and I sensed at the start a little bit of nervousness in you both, but obviously you settled down and you feel no doubt that, yeah. So, but interestingly, what I liked, you guys were sitting down, and for me, if I'm sitting, I feel a lot more planted, and if it's someone, I feel a lot more secure, right? But it's like if you just say, "Hey, go and stand in front of a room full of 60 people and talk," that's what can really kind of like kind of knock me out. The day of my improv class, the first session was the day after that, and I was really badly hungover, and the improv trainer said, right, go on the stage, and he did something like pretend you're a chicken in front of like 15 people, and I was like shaking through a hangover, and I was like, oh my god, this is like the worst thing ever. But you just kind of got to get through it. It's terrible, but it does kind of reset your brain to think, you know, I've been in this situation before, and I'm familiar with it, right? I think for me, familiarizing is
the audience. And if you're freezing on stage, act like chicken.
That's it. Well, I did. I'm a black chicken by all accounts.
Postcard, see how it goes.
Maybe two questions. How did you? Was your ability to create high quality video content self-taught, or you just kind of like very quickly got to that level? And then the second thing is that maybe a little bit more about what your thoughts are on having a voice in the industry and then being able to present that actually as a marketing tool, because I think a lot of us come from a background in Dubai where we can get sucked into these big consulting companies, and you're not allowed to literally even barely do a post on LinkedIn without anyone kind of officially saying it's okay, you know, or it's frowned upon if you are an independent thinker when you work for a big company. But I think obviously being independent is a complete flip to that. So how did you find that, like that freedom and that voice?
I mean, the thing with it is, you know, the thing with socials, and especially the long form content on YouTube, it's like a 24-hour, 7 days a week PR machine for you. So it's always working, which is amazing. So people often feel like they already know me because they've invested time and spent time with me watching some of the content. I watched a video yesterday actually about something similar to this, and the guy who was hosting it, he said, you need to show up 11 times before somebody feels like they actually recognize you, which is interesting. And we've done it a lot more than that. So we've got quite a few videos now over the years, but it really is like, even with there's that validation from clients as well. They'll go on to the channel and watch stuff. And then that will kind of confirm that, okay, these are the right or the wrong people. So we've been client calls where, you know, the client's gone, oh, this is a bit weird. It's like being in the video and we already know you. Great, because it's a great icebreaker for us to, you know, kind of already qualify ourselves to the client. So that's cool. And that's on one level, but then on the other, I really like, I mean, we talk a lot about our background. So I'm from Yorkshire. I'm from a small town, so working class background. And then
Huddersfield way, right?
Pardon?
Are you sort of around Huddersfield area?
From Bradford originally. And then Jan, who's like co-founder and then co-host as well, he grew up on the other side of the Berlin Wall in East Germany before the wall came down. So there's this very kind of like similar stories of grey, of greyness. But he was, you know, he kind of looked over the wall somewhat and imagined what the world was like. And then when the wall came down, he was suddenly the world became very colorful to him, and he fell in love with graphic design and with branding. So those two contrasting like journeys to where we are today, I think are really interesting. So we build on that, and we talk a lot about that in the stuff that we do. So I think that's also entertaining, and also if anybody is maybe thinking about doing this and they think, why should I do it? Why is my voice important? If you can see that, two lads from these backgrounds can just give it a go and can maybe have some traction, it would influence other people to do it. So that's really important for us as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Sunderland as well, so when you talk about kind of grayness, I think there's like an ingrained kind of drive to try and like make things better. I certainly try to do that in my hometown for quite a long time. And then it's, especially if you kind of mix that with exposure to bigger cities. So, I moved to London when I was 21 for a year, then moved back to finish my university degree. But yeah, I think the other interesting thing is, I mean, we're talking about loads of different stuff, but I think when you're in let's say the generation of the late 90s and the early 2000s, I think it was a time when not just graphic design was explosive, as well as the music scene and everything around it. Technology was also. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Thank you.
Oh, hello.
You're in France now, right?
I am indeed, yes. International chats are always the best, right?
Literally everybody is in a really cool place. Chris, Paul's here from Hyperfocus. Just to a quick intro.
Right.
Hey, chap,
Chris,
I'm Chris. I'm a designer originally from northeast of England, so the same neck of the woods as Gareth from. Been working in Dubai for the last almost 7 years coming up to. So I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. Originally graphic designer, branding, interface, UI, UX. My kind of biggest crown and glory was probably Jaguar Land Rover, where I did all the UI, UX for all the current vehicles on the road, the Range Rovers and Defenders and the like. So yeah, currently working for Abu Dhabi government. So my career is very intertwining in all different ways. So currently working more in innovation and design thinking and helping government do it a bit more differently. So yeah, nice to meet you guys. Glad I can make it on. Got a bit stuck in traffic work-wise, but nice to meet you.
Are you snowboarding yet, or?
I will be first week of Jan. Yep, off up to Chamonix, catch up with some old friends, including one who.
Not staying by the slopes, which.
Yeah, we'll be there for 10 days or something. I think a week, just over a week, something like that. But not as I was in previous years. I did 3 months 2 years ago, which was fantastic.
I just thought you kind of like actually lived by the mountains.
No, I want to. That's a future plan. I think future plan. I'm going to do that.
So I remember when you joined Accenture, and Andrew told us that there was a guy joining who designed all the stuff for the Range Rovers, and I was like, oh, cool. And then he was like, oh, he's a Geordie, and I was like, oh, I've got to meet this guy. But Chris is actually a very experienced breakdancer, and he's also an amazing snowboarder as well. So he's indeed a man of many talents.
Retired breakdancer.
That's right.
So
what we've basically been talking about, Chris, is just generally chatting, but we've been talking about creating content, sort of building and building voices, and I know that that's something you're into as well. And almost like that kind of like that coming from slightly more mundane backgrounds, and then opening up to bigger worlds and wanting to talk about design and sort of experiences, which Paul's been doing a lot of with his channel. I don't know. We also spoke a little bit about like learning and being able to more confidently essentially hold a room when you are presenting or hosting a channel, and the things that you learn in the way that you speak, and like the tricks and like the rules you put around your language when you're talking. And I think, to be fair, I probably slipped a bit of that. And I'm doing this right now, but I watched an old video when I was editing it, and I was watching myself, and as I was talking, I must have jumped around to about 5 different things within 30 seconds, and I barely finished any of them. And I thought, Jesus, do I do that? But I guess that's just like a busy brain, right? But yeah, controlling that and then monitoring it to present to a crowd is key, right?
That's one of the best tips for any sort of presenting. and I'm sure Paul, with the stuff you're doing, because I know you're on YouTube and everything with the brand reviews you're doing, you guys must watch back stuff that you're doing, certainly from the first one that you've done to what you're doing now, and see that progression. But recording yourself is a great way. We're so internalized, like we never look at ourselves, and it's the same thing with like hearing your own voice, right? You get really sick of it, and that was a watershed moment for me this year when I actually watched the video back of me presenting on stage and went, for the first time ever since I can remember my 45 years, my voice didn't sound weird. And I was like, well, when did that happen? Do you know what I mean? I obviously started watching more and more of my own stuff. So
because you were practicing?
Sorry?
Because you were practicing and you started?
Yeah, but also just because I've got more used to watching myself back, and like a lot of public speaking tips that I've come across when I've been researching that this year was to record yourself and to play it back and watch yourself. And like you said, Gareth, look at those mannerisms, look at like, am I saying, you know, all the time as a filler word, or like, how's my grammar? Am I staying on point? Am I going across? And I'm the same as you, Gareth. I tend to sort of like have one more idea as I'm talking. So I want to tell that as well. And you jump around. So you can I stay focused? And also, like say you're hosting something, there's not talk too much, which is what I'm thinking now. So yeah, I wanted to ask Paul, with the stuff you're doing on the YouTube and the brand reviews, how has that evolved for you over time? And what were the key things that you've thought, oh God, yeah, we need to change that, or oh no, that's really good, we should double down on it? What's that evolution been like?
I mean, Kuba's got his hand up. Do you wanna ask something? I have to bounce in like four minutes.
Well, let's go Paul first, and we'll jump back to you, Cuba.
Yeah. I'm listening to your stories about public speaking and content and so on and so forth, and it's quite interesting. This is something that at least for me, it emerged only recently. The fact that earlier producing content wasn't an inherent part of being a good designer or a good professional, but now we have a new era that emerged where if you want to be present with your work, it's not only about the work, but also the sort of a brand that you put on it in the context of popular social media, primarily video content, because this is something that allows for a more elaborate sort of expression of ideas and expression of thoughts and so on and so forth. So now it seems to be increasingly more important to be able to back up your work with a particular presence, which before was the core of what we do with that, narrative presence on stage and so on and so forth, which is something that, I feel like I need to be doing. But I have some sort of, even though I'm absolutely not afraid of public speaking. Like that was never an issue for me. Yeah, I just have this like ingrained natural resistance to, produce content, video content that has me in focus.
I mean, one of the angles that we have is, I said before, is like we don't talk about ourselves, and already like the thing that you just spoke about there is you've got a lot to say, and a lot of people want to hear that. The great thing about going into an edit as well is you can cut out the best bits. The amount of content I must have where there's ums and ahs, I could make an entire record just with ahs and put a beat behind it. It'd be amazing. So, and also the things that you say as well are very different to what's in your head. So when you actually watch videos back, you think, my God, I messed that up. I rambled on and talked absolute shit. And then you watch it and you're like, actually, I said something quite smart there. And in amongst all of this, there are things coming out because you put yourself in that situation. You're delivering your passion, your knowledge, the things that you've learned over the years. It's just about, being able to find those moments and not to be too scared about getting to that point somehow, some way. I have to go because I have a client meeting. I would love to start. We just kind of got warmed up, right? And first, I would love to be able to answer your questions and talk a bit deeper into this.
Yeah. Let's maybe try and do a little bit more of an officially promoted version in the future. I think it would be cool. I know that you're keen to expand a little bit into broader regions and all of that. So happy to help with a little bit of that where we can. But yeah, I know you got to go, man. So I'll stop talking.
All right, lovely to meet you all. Yeah, enjoy the rest of the chat, and I'll see the recording as well.
Take it easy,
See you
man.
later.
Later. Bye.
Easy, man.
Just a thought there, Kuba, on what you were saying about that multifaceted. You want to get all these things across. Most of the stuff I'm doing at the moment is like presentation based stuff. So I'm also working on one for DDX coming up in February, for example, that I'm doing. And that's an instance where you can kind of, when you have some visuals to back you up, if it's more of a presentation, right, a stage thing, then you can talk to one thing, maybe is the core narrative, but you can have other stuff there that is referenced, you know, visually, because you don't want to overdo it, because of course, you know, clean slides are better, but it's like there's another way around that thing you were talking. I'm just thinking out loud, is like you can also kind of reference things a little bit. So there are other points that are there that maybe just by having them written down, someone afterwards will come up and talk to you and go, oh, I wanted to talk to you about that thing that you mentioned there, but you didn't go into because it wasn't the core of what you were trying to talk about, you know? So, but yeah, to Paul's point, it's like, I think breaking that stuff down, and then to everyone's point, it's like trying to be killer focused on what am I trying to get across and how can I get across that in the simplest way, which is not always the easiest when you're just talking about it kind of on the fly. It's not a pre-scripted thing, but that's design, right? Isn't it? Taking all this information and trying to reduce it down to what's the critical thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just doing stuff and practicing for me. Like I when I finished my improv thing, I was like, I'm totally going to do more of this. I think one of the problems I have is I do have a lot of like ideas, and I'm now trying to like execute them rather than just think of them. But it is, we talked about this briefly, that the most important thing is consistency. It's better to have one thing that you do consistently instead of 5 ideas that never really get anywhere. At least I think that. But I mean, as I've said before, one thing that I'll say about Jonathan is he's being consistent with the whole HCD thing, and you know, gradually it built and growing and all of that, which is cool. So whereas on the flip side, like I'll do a big fucking firework once every 3 years, and it'll be great, but you know, it's just once every 3 years, you know, or whatever it might be, once every 2 years, and it doesn't have the same value, you know.
Yeah, it's different things, but I mean, HCD, like you say, is a great example. Like 12 years has been doing that, and all of it is giving value to the user, to the audience, and that as a brand, it's one of the reasons why I was so excited to work with them, because it's like, you know, that is something that you can't pay for. That you can't like leap forward in time and grab that. Like it just takes time and effort, and he's put so much time into that to bring so much good value to the audience for asking for nothing. It's like the equities built up in that is phenomenal. So yeah, shout out to him on that front. But I'm more like you, Gareth. I go through phases. Like earlier this year, I was like right, personal brand, I'm going to push it. Next step is video, and I paused before the video bit. Like you were saying, Kuba, like I've got this kind of like, I need to do it, and it's not going to be right, and I should do it more ad hoc rather than like, you know, craft it and edit it and make sure it looks perfect. I should just be like more off the cuff, which actually research tells me hits the audience better anyway. So that's my kind of thing I need to do in 2026. But I've kind of like done a bit of it, and now I'm having a bit of a break because I've just felt like I'm saturated, and I'm like, oh, you know, just the end of the year type of thing. It's like too much stuff. So it's I totally agree with you, Gareth. It's like I'm slightly in between the two. It's like trying to be consistent, but then you kind of, I like that the diversity of work and also in life, and not being stuck on one thing the whole time.
Thanks for joining, Chris. Appreciate you jumping in. I think you saved us from a slightly low turnout, but it's been ridiculously last minute. All right, good stuff, lads. Thanks very much.
Well, man. Get well. Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Wait for the edit.
Roger. Take it easy. See you guys.
See you.
Bye.